At the heart of horror, there has always been more than spooks and scares.
Sometimes, it's not what you see, but what you hear.
Welcome to Sound Scary.
Each week, we talk to the artists, the musicians, the fans, the people who haunt the shadowy corners of your mind.
Join us as we delve into the deepest,
Darkest.
and most unforgettable earscapes. Welcome to Sound Scary.
Welcome to another episode of Sounds a Little Scary. I'm your host, Ryan Cultrera, and today we got someone really cool and iconic in the horror world with us.
Yes, absolutely. Look, we have a lot of great guests on the show, and I say it every week, and I stand by it. But this one's a real special one. A lovely human being, just the best of the best. Barbara Crampton from Re-Animator, You're Next, From Beyond, and her new film, Sacrifice, which is really cool and creepy. I'm happy to report.
I just wanted to say how excited I am to be talking with a horror icon today. I'm such a big fan of Re-Animator and From Beyond, and now with Sacrifice, you're stepping back into the world of a favorite author of mine. Like, what's it like to return to the world of H.P. Lovecraft?
Well, this film is not based on any particular Lovecraft story. It just has the feeling and tone of Lovecraft. It was based off a story by Paul Kane. And really that story is more folk horror in a way. But there's a sensibility about this movie that feels very Lovecraftian because it has that cosmic horror aspect to it where things are happening in your world that are kind of out of your control. Things are bigger than yourself, and the unknowable, the unthinkable, the indescribable is happening, and we're just so small and minuscule in comparison. So in that way, it's very Lovecraftian, and also the fears of the main character of Sophie. Her character, but her actress name is Sophie, and what she's going through, and how everything about this world is seeping into her in her dreams, and things are changing around her with her husband, and she can't quite get a handle on it and get control of it. It's overwhelming, and I think that's what Lovecraft talks about in his stories.
Well, Barbara, I've always felt that a lot of actresses from the 80s, they don't find that the way to continue and make themselves find that career. You've done this.
I wish it were so for so many of my friends and my contemporaries. And I think things are opening up for some of them. Caroline Williams just came out with a movie, 10 Minutes to Midnight. I haven't seen it yet, but I hope to see it soon. And Kelly Maroney was in a movie recently. It's kind of a Lovecraft themed. Felissa Rose is working a little bit, recently, so that's great. But yeah, there's a lot of my friends that haven't had the opportunity to work as much as I have lately. I don't think there's as many roles for older women as there should be, although I feel like with the movies that came out, Relic and Anything for Jackson, and they both did so well, and young and old people, audiences love those films, so I'm hoping there'll be a little bit more for older people, men and women. VFW came out, and there was a lot of roles for a lot of older guys in that, and so as long as people watch movies with older people, I think they'll make them. You have to watch the movies with the older people. But I was lucky enough to come back after I took a little bit of break with a film that did so well, You're Next, and that propelled me, and gave me another life to my career, another chapter. And so I'm just waiting for some of these ladies to be in a big breakout hit.
We're very happy to have you back. What was your preparation like for this role? Because, Norwegian accents are tough to nail, but you really stuck the landing on that.
Well, I had to hire somebody. I don't know how I could, there's only so many Liv Ullmann movies you can watch. And so I hired somebody from the Scandinavian School in San Francisco. She came to my house twice a week for about 8 weeks, and we worked on all of the dialogue and all of the phrases that I have to speak in Norwegian. And then we just worked on regular conversations so that if I wanted to change any dialogue or there was any ad libs or anything like that, I would feel comfortable. And I wanted to be very Norwegian. So I even feel like my accent is stronger than the authentic Norwegian actors that we had.
Oh, wow.
And in Norway, a lot of the people that live in Norway, some of our actors live in England now, but they were from Norway. They also live in Sweden. So that accent is very fluid in a way, and even if you watch the show Vikings, like some people have a heavier accent than other people do. But I felt like if I'm the leader of a cult and I'm in Norway, then I should really have the thickest accent. So there was certain operative words like names of people, like Isak and Ostri and my husband, and it's different words that I said to my teacher. I said, well, there's certain words that I really like to speak like an old timer. So how would an old timer say that if they never left this fictional island that's, in Norway, and they just feel like they're just so in deep with this culture and this cult. And so I picked out a few words that I wanted to sound even more Norwegian than your average Norwegian.
Everything I watch from you now, you go for these really wild, intense characters. Why this character?
Well, I've always wanted to play the leader of a cult. That's something I haven't done before.
Yeah.
I just, thank God people are offering me really interesting roles lately in the second half of my career. And maybe getting older has something to do with it, because I'm the evil matriarch or some crazy lady or a caretaker gone wild or, something, some sort of compromised character. And those are really fun to play. There are some movies with younger people that are a little bit crazy and evil and weird, but I think, maybe you have to have some experience, to be truly compromised in life. Maybe you have to be older. I don't know. So, these are the kinds of roles that I've grown into, I guess, as I've gotten older. Yeah.
We were very excited about that because, my girlfriend and I are such big fans. And when we saw the movie and that there was a cult, we're really hoping she's the cult leader. And yes, you're without spoiling too much, your character goes in a very different direction than audiences would have come to expect from some of your previous performances. Was there anything that you kind of channeled to get into the mindset of this character?
I read some accounts of cults and cult leaders and what they're like. And usually they're very charismatic and warm, and they sort of lull you into this false sense of security. And it was my feeling that I didn't want to be obvious about it. And I wanted them to feel like they were safe, the couple that comes to the island. And so I just wanted to be warm and engaging and just give little clues and little hints as we got deeper into the movie that maybe there's something up with this woman. I
like the fact that you work with a lot of young actors, that you've kind of, I feel like, I watched Beyond the Gates last night again. What is it that you would tell someone who's just getting into this business now, starting especially when it comes to genre and when it comes to horror?
Horror's changed a lot, and the types of movies that we're seeing has changed and has grown. I feel like when I was first starting in the business, I don't know, things were more black and white in terms of who you played as a character and who you were, and just much more focused. You're either a good girl or a bad girl. A good character or a guy as, an evil Freddy or this or that, or somebody who's, running for their life or, being the final girl or whatever. But I feel like films today are just a little bit more sophisticated and I don't know, they feel more nuanced in a way. So when when I came back and worked on Your Next a number of years ago, and I had taken a break really because I wasn't being offered so many roles when I was in my middle and late 30s, and I just, didn't work as much, and then had children and then got called for that part. I really noticed that the acting styles of everybody in that film, whether it was A.J. Bowen or Amy Seimetz, who is a director now and a writer and actress, or Ty West, who was, a director and just did a little, he does a little acting in here and there, or Joe Swanberg, is that, they were part of that whole mumblecore movement. And there's something about, there's just a realism factor in the genre right now that feels like it harks back to like the 70s, more so than when I was growing up in the 80s, where I just feel like it was a heightened, and especially working with Stuart Gordon, I felt like the acting was, was a little bit bigger, more operatic, certainly in the movies that I was involved in with him. But I feel like we've gone back now to a more realistic way of telling stories, which is nice. So I would, the kids that I'm working with today are fantastic. And the two leads in Sacrifice, really, I couldn't have asked for, two other co-stars that were as good as them. There's nothing I needed to say to those two because they're fantastic. The movie really works in large part due to them. It really hinges on them. I could have done whatever I did. I made my own choices. I could have played it bigger or smaller, whatever I did. It really hinges on those two, and they did a fantastic job. But as far as like being in the business and staying in the business, and I've been in the business for a long time, I would say to young actors or anybody working in the film business today is like, do what these other people are doing, be like Adam Wingard and be able to, write your own story, film your own story, direct it, edit it, and, act in other people's stories, and, just try to be able to do it all and know that, I could have given up after I had my kids and just said, forget it. But, I got a call from my agent who hadn't lost my number, and then all of a sudden I have a whole new career ahead of me. So I think that acting is the long game, and you can do it as long as you want to do it. And you're going to have ebbs and flows. And, for a lot of people in the film business, they get very discouraged, whether they're working in front of the camera or behind the camera. And I think you just have to try to keep your momentum up and keep your head above water and know that if you're going to work in this industry or any artistic industry, if you love it, you're going to be in it for 50 years, 60 years. So don't sweat it when you don't get this job or that job. Just keep at it and keep working and try to satisfy your economic issues by having, maybe another source of income or something, and just keep at it. And then after a while, you'll look back and you'll say, oh, I did this and this and this and this and this, and you'll have a whole career that you can look back on.
I wanted to talk a little bit about your experience of working in Norway, because this was filmed on location, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any interesting cultural experiences or takeaways from your time shooting there?
Just the nicest people. Everybody says the Canadians are nice. The Norwegians are nicer. They couldn't have, but they're so happy. They have health care. They go to university, for free. And, and there's this sense that if you give people too much, they'll take advantage of you and they won't do anything. But it was like an idyllic place, and people were just, full of goodness and joy. And it was a pleasure to be there. And the scenery was amazing. And I just loved being there.
It was striking. Perfect place to set this story.
Well, Barbara, it's always such a pleasure. You're just such a you're a light in a dark sky.
Well, hit me up anytime, you guys.
I will. Okay. Thank you,
All
Barbara.
Right, thanks.
So, guys, if you liked our interview, make sure to check out Sacrifice. It comes out on February 5th.
Look at your local showtimes and all that stuff, because I believe it's going to be streaming, maybe a few theatrical. It's honestly worth seeing.
Theaters.
It's a real fun movie. And as Barbara said, the cast is really good. It's a really fun, spooky, cool flick.
One of the things I loved about this film, she kind of mentioned the resurgence of, 70s style horror. And, this movie also falls in squarely into a new subcategory of horror that the internet has lovingly labeled "good for her," where like things go dark in a way that ends up like positive for the female lead. It's a genre that goes all the way back, to Carrie and up through Midsommar, and without spoiling too much, this is definitely a good for her kind of movie.
This is a real treat. See Sacrifice, February 5th, and we're going to try and get Barbara to come back on for a full episode because
Fingers
why?
crossed.
We love Barbara.
Seriously, so cool to talk to.
That's it for today's Sounds a Little Scary. We got a lot more fun stuff to come and a lot of scary stories to come, and thanks for watching, guys.
Till next time, stay safe, stay sane, but mainly, stay spooky. Have a good one, guys.